The species known as humans have only recently joined the Grand Alliance of galactic civilizations, coming from the far-flung Perseus quadrant, distant from Central Alliance sectors. Like many newcomers, their technology appears a chaotic blend, with advanced systems combined alongside methods that seem almost primitive. This assortment reflects their particular survival needs, yet unlike other species, humans haven't adopted Alliance standard weaponry. Instead, they retain an array of older weapon systems, a choice that initially seemed to reflect a primitive inability to adapt. But after extensive investigation, I am convinced that something more profound is at play. Humanity's persistence with older doctrines may signal a shift, not in them, but in our own perceptions. Throughout the Galactic Alliance, guided munitions reign supreme, their accuracy providing an advantage over vast distances. Their introduction solidified the foundations of modern military strategy, with guided weaponry becoming the standard in conflicts across the galaxy. It is a simple truth of physics: space is so vast that for non-guided munitions, even slight course adjustments make targets essentially unreachable. Without guidance, one would have to be practically on top of an enemy vessel for unguided munitions to find their mark. The Alliance's energy weapons, such as plasma launchers and laser arrays, provide another layer of short-range options. Although they travel at near light speeds, ensuring rapid targeting, they have their own weaknesses. Space, though a vacuum, is not truly empty. Cosmic radiation, meteors, and stellar emissions create a hostile environment that necessitates heavy shielding for any crewed vessel. This same shielding, designed for protection from natural hazards, also deflects directed energy, creating an unexpected resistance even the Alliance hadn't fully accounted for. Initially, humanity's insistence on these archaic weapons seemed a sign of outdated tactics. However, as I observed, humans have circumvented our assumptions, creating methods that allow them to use unguided projectiles effectively. This adaptation hints at a difference in human technological evolution, where what seems primitive to us is anything but in their hands. The Museum of Origins on Haven Prime, their colony in the Perseus quadrant, offered a glimpse into humanity's unusual tactics. Unlike most species who erase or hide past barbarisms, humanity has preserved its history with reverence. I was welcomed warmly, the curators even encouraging me to explore further as a foreigner. As I delved deeper, I found a trove of records detailing humanity's fascination with ranged weaponry, dating back thousands of years. Humanity's history of kinetic projectiles goes back before recorded history, from rudimentary stones and slings to refined ballistic weapons. As they progressed, each iteration honed not just power but precision, a skill ingrained into their culture. When it came time for industrialization, they retained a preference for ranged weapons, adapting and perfecting even as technological advancements allowed for more complex options. The persistence of non-guided weapons, and more notably, the ingenuity with which humans use them, seemed an oddity at first. However, I soon realized that humans had developed a deep-seated competitive instinct, a drive to excel in defense and attack alike. Their history reflects constant struggles between tribes, nations, even planetary coalitions pushing their survival skills to extremes. It wasn't a simple matter of stubbornness, but an evolved survival mechanism, one that shaped their doctrines. This competitive edge is fundamental to human nature, making them the only race I've encountered who can incorporate unguided munitions into effective combat doctrine. The next exhibit covered the development of predictive algorithms. I marveled as I watched humanity's early struggles with over-the-horizon targeting, using unguided projectiles with alarming accuracy. The breakthrough, however, came not from complex weaponry but from algorithms capable of calculating trajectories based on probability, speed, and motion. It was a horrifyingly effective solution. Rooted in physics, a moving object maintains its course until acted upon, a fact they used to create trajectory paths. Even in space, where vastness is a shield, they could hit evading targets. This predictive approach allowed them to wield unguided projectiles like precision instruments, a feat unheard of in the galaxy. Human targeting isn't a simple aim and shoot. Their strategy leverages natural limitations, the biological constraints of crews. Humans use computers to calculate an intercept path based on what their target's next move likely will be, factoring in limited biological tolerances. For instance, even evasive maneuvers have limits, as physical bodies can only withstand certain g-forces. This combination of calculated trajectories and advanced computers grants them precision with a surprising margin of success. Energy weapons, too, present challenges. While rapid, they lose potency over long distances as beams dissipate, much like a flashlight's beam fading into darkness. Strangely, human engineers have managed to increase the focal range of certain energy weapons, extending them to several light minutes. My inquiries were met with wry smiles and evasions, leaving me to wonder just how accurate their claims of such weaponry might be. Yet the simplicity of their solutions made me cautious, as it seemed they had refined techniques we'd dismissed as impossible. The Alliance's races find humanity's navigation methods baffling. Their erratic maneuvers appear amateurish, wasting fuel on seemingly random courses. But this flaw is intentional. Humans have created unpredictability to disrupt potential targeting. It is both ironic and ingenious the very species that perfected predictive algorithms has woven randomness into its movements, a calculated flaw that challenges enemy tracking. Their seemingly inefficient course changes serve as both a defensive maneuver and a tactical advantage. This combination of random maneuvering, unguided weaponry, and tactical foresight reveals that humans are not as unprepared as we assumed. Although they have maintained the longest peace in their history, they retain an instinctual readiness for conflict. In their records, I discovered a common phrase, one that encapsulates their ethos to avoid spilling oceans of blood. One must be willing to spill a lake. This concept of deterrence is foreign to most species, who view peace as strength. But to humanity, peace is a choice, a deliberate act of restraint honed over millennia. My entire experience within their museum was, I suspect, more than a gesture of welcome. It was a lesson. Humanity's courteous front masks a readiness that few would suspect. By sharing their history, they reveal not their weaknesses but their strength. Humanity's peaceful exterior hides a capacity for response that is chilling in its simplicity. The galaxy, with its vast alliances and fragile treaties, sees humanity as an idealistic newcomer. But behind that facade is a species that has fought for survival, both against themselves and the cosmos. Humans' choice of peace stems from strength, not fragility. They have risen above their history, yet retain the core instincts that have carried them through countless battles. Should anyone mistake their kindness for weakness, they would discover the full power behind that mask. In the end, my studies led me to an inescapable conclusion: humanity's politeness is a shield, a subtle reminder of what they are capable of. Any race that disregards this will face repercussions beyond reckoning. Humanity does not need to make threats. They extend their history as both a gesture of goodwill and a silent warning they are peaceful, but not helpless. In the vast records of the Grand Alliance, we should take care to remember that humanity is not just another species on the galactic stage. They are the cautious giants, who choose peace over war but are fully prepared for the latter if required. Let this serve as a reminder: in underestimating them, we would be falling into a trap they do not need to set. It is simply in their nature, a warning passed down through their actions and their own words: don't poke the giants. As I continued my studies, I became increasingly aware of the deeper implications behind humanity's military doctrine. It wasn't just about surviving conflict, it was about bending the rules of engagement to suit their unpredictability. Humanity's approach seemed to defy every accepted standard of galactic warfare. While other species evolved by adopting alliance norms, humans chose to reinvent the framework to make themselves harder to anticipate. The most disconcerting realization came as I examined their psychological warfare tactics. Humanity does not rely solely on the strength of its weaponry. They harness their enemies' fear and assumptions. By embracing their complex history of conflict, they created an image of unpredictability, a quiet but powerful reminder to any observing species. In their archives, I found that humans often employed subtle methods to psychologically defeat an opponent before engaging in direct conflict. Their strategies involved creating a perception that any engagement with them would come at too high a cost, regardless of the outcome. An archived report on a skirmish in the Gaia IV system illustrated this concept perfectly. Gaia IV was a small, remote human outpost that the Xul-Ax collective, a militaristic species known for ruthless expansion, had attempted to seize. Expecting an easy victory, the Xul-Ax arrived in force, their fleet surrounding the planet. The initial communication was standard for the collective surrender terms delivered with arrogance, assuming the human colonists would submit. But the response they received was a stark contrast to their expectations. Instead of surrender, the human commander on Gaia IV, a strategist named Commander Leah Park, responded by calmly broadcasting a warning to the Xul-Ax. Her words were simple but unnervingly direct. "You are free to test our defenses, but know that humanity does not surrender, and we will not be as merciful as you imagine." It was a subtle, psychological maneuver, intended to plant doubt in the minds of the Xul-Ax leadership. What followed was a remarkable feat of calculated resistance. Although Gaia IV was lightly defended, Park utilized deceptive strategies and defensive posturing that created an illusion of greater strength. The human colonists manipulated environmental factors, using electromagnetic pulses to disrupt Xul-Ax sensors, and orchestrated mock fleets of unmanned drones to mislead the enemy. The Xul-Ax, uncertain of the true size of human forces, hesitated, delaying their assault long enough for reinforcements to arrive. The victory at Gaia IV was not a result of superior technology. It was the product of psychological strategy, bluffs, and the creation of a phantom fleet. The Xul-Ax suffered heavy casualties, and by the end of the engagement, the cost of their attempted conquest had far exceeded any potential gain. Humanity's doctrine wasn't simply about winning battles, it was about preventing conflicts by demonstrating that any engagement would be a prolonged, costly affair. Humanity's psychological doctrine has earned them the moniker silent giants within certain intelligence circles of the Alliance. The silent giants doctrine, as it has been unofficially named, operates on three principles: unpredictability, resilience, and deterrence. Unlike most Alliance members who display strength through open shows of force, humanity prefers a quieter, more calculated approach. They seldom initiate conflict, but, when provoked, respond with a swiftness and ferocity that few are prepared for. Their unpredictability extends beyond tactics and technology. Humanity's diplomatic approach is equally baffling to other species, as they prefer open engagement and dialogue but will deploy psychological warfare if negotiations turn sour. There are documented instances where human diplomats, when faced with aggressive counterparts, have dropped subtle hints about the futility of engaging with humanity, presenting historical examples and veiled anecdotes that instill doubt in potential adversaries. It's a tactic that speaks to their nuanced understanding of warfare, both on and off the battlefield. I had the opportunity to discuss these insights with a fellow researcher, Dr. Thalan Marik, a xenobiologist who has long studied the behavioral patterns of various species. Dr. Marik provided a perspective that added depth to my understanding of humanity's philosophy of restraint. Humans, he remarked, have adapted to view conflict as inevitable but not desirable. Their restraint is born from experience, not weakness. They have cultivated an instinct to avoid war, yet they are always ready for it. To them, peace is not an idealistic dream, it is a strategy. A carefully maintained balance. Dr. Marik's observations were both enlightening and unsettling. Humanity's peace is not the result of an inherent aversion to conflict. Instead, it stems from a hard-won understanding of the cost of violence. Their history reflects a unique perspective on survival, one where avoiding unnecessary bloodshed is not a sign of frailty but of calculated wisdom. As my research concluded, I found myself with a lingering sense of unease. Humanity's capacity for peace is both their strength and a weapon in itself. Their polite, diplomatic front is as much a strategic choice as any military maneuver. They have survived countless conflicts and emerged stronger, wiser, and more deliberate. And while they may prefer peace, they are always prepared to defend it. The silent giants doctrine, while subtle, has implications for the future of the Alliance. Any race that interprets humanity's restraint as weakness risks learning a harsh lesson. I left Haven Prime with a newfound respect for the humans and an appreciation for the cautionary message they extend to the galaxy. Humanity's strength is quiet, patient, and tempered by restraint, but it is strength nonetheless. And for any who might consider challenging them, let this serve as a final reminder humanity's peace is a choice, not a concession. In the annals of history, those who ignore the silent giants may well find themselves not as conquerors, but as footnotes, a warning etched into the records of the Grand Alliance, a reminder of what it truly means to underestimate a species that has made survival an art.